morning, John and Jan. Thank you very, very much for joining us this morning on our next in our series of interviews with local Southwest England business owners. Wonderful. How are you both feeling this morning?
Thank you, Duncan.
Yeah, we're great.
Great.
Thank you very much for asking. It's a beautiful morning, and yeah, it's great. It's great to be alive.
Isn't it just? Oh, I love that. It's so, it just, you know, the positiveness of everything, which I think is so important now during this day and age, especially with what we've just gone through. No, so super. We're all comfortable in. Okay, so well, let's get right down to it. John, Jan, please tell me a bit about your business. I know it's JR Corporate Health. Tell me a bit about it. What makes it so special?
Well, I guess for many years I worked for a number of large companies providing similar services, and they were providing services to big business basically. And my feeling was that a lot of small to medium-sized businesses were being prevented from providing services to their employees. So we kind of identified a gap in the market, really. So we wanted to be able to provide bespoke services to smaller businesses that didn't have the resources, financial or otherwise, to invest in their businesses and in their staff. So that's why we created JR Corporate Health. It's something that we've been thinking about for many years, and it just kind of happened at the right time, really. So yeah, we give businesses the opportunity to buy bespoke services on an ad hoc basis. So it saves them from investing huge amounts of money into annual contracts, basically.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's a wonderful idea. I wonder if I could ask you, you talk about services, you talk about bespoke services. Could you maybe go into a little bit more detail as to what those services actually are?
Yeah, we provide a range of services. For example, we provide counselling services. So basically, if an employer identifies a need for a particular employee, they can contact us. And what we do then is we provide a brief assessment session to make sure that actually counselling is right for that person. It might not be, in which case, you know, we can save the company an awful lot of money by directing that particular employee you know, to whatever kind of they need, whether it's advice somewhere or whatever it is. So it prevents them from having to invest in a number of sessions for them. If we decide between us that counselling is appropriate, then we would contract with the organisation for a 6-session model, as we call it. So that just gives us an opportunity to work with that employee over that 6 sessions to address anything, whether it's personal or whether it's professional, just to get them back on the right track again. So that's our counselling service. As we've gone through COVID-19, we've come to realise that actually people may not want to invest in counselling, but what we've done is we've created an ad hoc individual well-being session. So it just gives an employee the ability to speak with us just as a one-off. And that's maybe all they need. They might be anxious about, you know, what's happening with regard to COVID, or they might be anxious about their job, or whatever it is. We just give them an opportunity to have a one-off session.
One of the things that we're picking up from talking to other businesses, Duncan, is that many of their employees are becoming increasingly anxious about the idea of returning to work, the possibility of cross-infection, and that breeds in itself a level of stress and anxiety, perhaps over and above what the individual might experience. So we give everybody, whether as an employee or simply as a member of the public, an opportunity to just check in with us and see how we might help them prepare for that next step in their lives.
Yeah, so that's our counselling service and associated service that we provide.
Can I interrupt you, Jan? I think it was very, what John just said was for employees, and I'm picking it up a lot as well, is employers are concerned about bringing the employees back, and the employees are also concerned about coming back.
Sure.
Do you do a group session with sort of business teams or things, or is it very individualistic?
To date, it's been very individualistic, but what we do have, and what we've always had from day one, is we have what we call a management consultation. So if a manager is worried in any way about just that, or whether they are worried about a particular employee, bearing in mind we provide mental health services primarily. That's our focus. So if a manager is particularly concerned from a mental health perspective about their employee and they don't know how to manage that particular situation, then a manager can come to us for a kind of coaching, if you like. So we do that. One of our other services that we offer is a retreat, and I put retreat in inverted commas because people often look at a retreat as some kind of spiritual exercise, and I'm not talking about those kinds of retreats. I'm talking about the opportunity for a business either to send one of their people away on their own, or whether they want to do that as a group situation. So basically what that means in practice is that we would take the organisation away for a weekend break, and it gives them an opportunity then to work with us, and we will provide it primarily for rest and relaxation, but we can also provide workshops. So for example, we have a stress reduction workshop that we can use with the group or an individual. We provide mindfulness workshops. We provide team building workshops, and just an opportunity as well for people to relax with one another. You know, just to get a kind of to review where they are as individuals and as a business. So that's the other service that we provide.
And I was one of the questions I was going to ask you, and this ties in so much with this. That sounds wonderful when we get back to being allowed to interact with each other. How has COVID-19 impacted on especially services like that? Oh, wow.
I think that says it all. Yeah, I mean, no, people have got other priorities at the moment. That's not something that they're looking to buy into at this moment in time.
Which is so sad, because I've often said, you know, we're very quick we think nothing of going and having our teeth checked every 6 months. We will go and have our checkup, our medical checkup, to see that we're physically okay. We'll do that once a year. But we'll never ever think about our mind and our mental state, and that to me is so sad. In fact, it's alarming.
It is, and that's one of the other services that we're able to provide for organisations as well. It's called a well check. So basically what we do is we help individuals to take a step back from their lives, give an individual some space to reflect on their mental, their physical health, and their life generally. Because I think you're right, you know, do we do that on a day-to-day basis? No, we don't. We're too busy in kind of getting on and doing the things that we need to do. So just the opportunity to take that step back and to look at our lives more objectively can be really helpful, and actually then minimize the potential for things like stress or depression or all of those other mental health conditions that are so prevalent in our society today.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm perfectly happy to talk to say that I've had one of those sessions, and it really was incredible just to take a step back and just to consider. But because there isn't a business owner on the planet, I think at the moment, given what we're going through, who isn't experiencing some sort of anxiety. So I can well recommend it, Jan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's one of the services that's proving particularly popular through this period in time, really. Yeah, so it's good. So we're evolving as we go along. You know, we're providing what people want, and that's a service that, I think that is increasingly asked for.
Do you think would there be a market for an online virtual type of group session, like you spoke about going away? Like, obviously you can't do it for 24 hours at some retreat, But do you think there is that possible? Is it something you would consider?
It is possible. It's something that we're thinking about and intend to develop as well. But of course, some of the issues around that, well, one of the main issues around that is confidentiality and making sure that you, and not particularly because of, you know, the online implications of that, but the implications within a group setting, really, to make sure that people are very kind of comfortable with the way in which we contract to maintain confidentiality. So that's an issue that we're thinking very carefully about, but absolutely that's something that we intend to develop.
I think if I can add to that, Duncan, during some of the conversations that we've had, you and I, about one of the limitations of Zoom conferencing is that you don't get the same ability to monitor somebody's body language. And if somebody is a little shy or a little reticent about expressing their concerns or their anxieties, it's not quite so easy to pick that up on screen as it would be if you were operating in a room. And when we deliver our stress management workshops in-house, we make sure that we set that up around a table or around a group session so that we can see all of the participants, all of the delegates to that session very clearly. And you can see how people react to one another and pick that up. Less easy to do that if you're talking about a Zoom function.
Yeah, because we like the ability then, if something does crop up for somebody, we like the ability to be able to take them off somewhere and just spend time with people just to tease out what it is they're struggling with away from the group, which is not so easy if you do it online.
You've got the breakout room, so it is possible. But picking up, John, on what you were saying, is one thing that we are saying from a business coaching point of view, is at this moment in time, one of the most important things is communicate. You know, you take for granted when you sit around the coffee machine in the office, there's that communication going on. So we say, you know, really Zoom meetings are very important. But that very introverted, quiet person that normally doesn't say boo or bar at a meeting, excuse me, but if you're there in the same room as the person, you pick up that vibe. And so we're saying be conscious of that during a Zoom meeting. So yeah, absolutely. It's just, it's not that easy. So who would you say would be, you've spoken about corporate and you've spoken about small businesses, you've spoken about business owners and employees. Who then is your target market? Who are the customers that you're looking for?
Well, primarily it's small and medium-sized businesses, and as Jan was saying earlier, the importance of making sure that we're not asking people to commit themselves to an annual subscription or an annual contract. And one of the advantages to that, I mean, for example, Jan was talking about our 6-session model of counselling. We expect, if it's appropriate for an individual employee to contract with the employer for that, we also say, but it may not take 6 sessions. It may only take 4, 3, in which case that's all you'll be charged. And the integrity behind that level of charging and contracting is something that certainly has been greatly appreciated.
Yes, and it's quite unique, you know, that was kind of the niche of our business, really, to provide only what people need. And it's small to medium-sized enterprise.
I think that, to me, what's so exciting about it, corporates always have this, and they've got HR departments and things, but the small and medium enterprise, it's something that often goes by the wayside because of the expectation that it's going to be so expensive, and I've got to go into. So I think you've got a wonderful product and service here to offer, and I think we as the small and medium enterprises, the smaller businesses, we need to be more aware of that, and we need to make use of it more, especially now, because I think it is so important with all the fear and the anxiety about going back to work now. Knowing that there's somebody like you guys around to help is fantastic. Just 1 or 2 more questions, if I may. What do you think, from a business point of view, what has been the biggest impact on this COVID-19 for you guys?
And I think it's the cessation of our interaction with groups in the public domain, as it were. So the fact that we've had to deliver our services either via the telephone or via a video link like Zoom, that's been the biggest impact. But also, I think it's because employers have become a little more reticent to spend money.
Well, they've got other priorities, I think, at the moment as well.
Survival is quite crucial for folk, and they're concerned, of course, about the mental well-being, the health and safety from a mental aspect of their employees, although some employers don't actually recognise that their responsibility, their duty of care to their employees is to actually support them in their mental well-being as well as physical health and safety.
I think for a lot of employers, though, they're actually not aware that they have a responsibility, and that's where the educational role of ourselves comes in too, because they're not aware.
I think that is so very important. And second to last question, if I may, and I'm going to ask both of you individually. And I'll start with you, Jan. One message, what would be if you could just have one message to potential customers, prospects out there, to your marketplace? One message, what would you say to them?
I'd want to say, take action before it develops into a problem, because you could save yourself an awful lot of grief as a business, and you could save your employees an awful lot of grief with regard to, you know, the escalation of stress, anxiety, or other mental health issues. So take action, really, I think, before it develops into a problem would be my message.
I think that's very important advice, very, very sound advice. Thanks very much, Jan. And yourself, John, what is that one message you would like
to recognise, particularly for smaller companies? One of the messages that we keep getting back from folk is that, well, because we're a small team, we actually understand one another very well indeed. So I think an employer might say to me that I would be aware of any impending difficulties in terms of the mental health of one of my employees. My concern is that sometimes that's actually not the case, because that intimacy between employees and employers of a small business actually can prevent an employee opening up to somebody that they're perhaps, you know, relatively close to. They don't want to actually share with their boss, hey, I'm having a tough time, particularly when, you know, even though the whole mental health agenda is developing in its openness, people are still reluctant to talk about their mental health and their anxiety and their stress. One of the things that I found difficult to deal with is that still the biggest cause of death for young men between the age of 20 and 45 is suicide. And that's tragic, because if people felt able to talk about their concerns and their difficulties in a more open environment, then we could certainly assist that individual in coping with the stresses that might lead to that level of mental anxiety.
Thank you. I think that is such a horrific statistic, and I've heard it before, but it's so sad because it is so manageable. This whole notion of cowboys don't cry that is so 20th century. So what I'd like to say on your behalf, and everybody, get out there, don't be afraid to talk. If you can't talk to your partner, if you can't talk to whether it's your business or your life partner, pick up the phone, contact Jan and John, and your email address and contact telephone numbers will be on this clip. So please, people, please let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's lower that statistic. It really is horrific. So thank you both very, very much for today. I think it is one of the most important messages that we need to get out to everybody. So I really appreciate your time and thank you for being with us.
Thank you
Very
too
much.
for your time too today, Duncan. It's been a great privilege talking to you.
Thanks a lot.